All right, everyone, welcome. If you're just joining us, we are getting ready to start here in just 1 second, and we're going to be talking about circadian rhythm and lighting, natural lighting. And Andy, it was funny, Andy and I were just talking about this a minute ago. Both of us had lighting issues we had to solve to make sure the live stream looked good because natural light was popping in and doing what natural light does and changing things up. So we were having some issues. It took a minute to get everything worked out. But we're good to go. We're very excited for our live stream today. And I'm so excited about our guest because very infrequently we get to actually see like the practical, like very often we talk and we're like, yeah, this is very cool, this is exciting. But Andy's gonna be talking about like the real practical, making lives better, which I think is a really important feature and super valuable. So, if you don't know, we're live streaming to you from our virtual booth here, our virtual set here in Austin, Texas, where we have all kinds of automation set up, lights, blinds, doors, access control, cameras. It's going to be an exciting and very fun place to be. So, shoot us a chat. Let us know what you would like us. All right, welcome y'all to this Bixie Live with PoE Texas. I'm your host, Tyler Andrews, and I'll tell you what, don't we just love these virtual trade shows? I mean, they're totally different, right? You know, when are you gonna get the chance to sit in Zoom meetings all day in your PJs and drink coffee? Oh wait, that's what our lives are all, every day, all day right now. If you're in a Zoom meeting, you're just like me, Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting. Or call it what you will, Teams, whatever. We're all just sitting at home in our PJs. I will not show you what's below the camera line on our show today. But to make this show more exciting and to make our Bixie Live or Bixie booth at the virtual trade show more exciting this year, we've gathered top experts in the world of PoE and asked them to do some quick presentations for you on relevant topics about Power over Ethernet for intelligent buildings, including concepting, designing, wiring, network, and creating wellness, which is what we're talking about today. I'm going to add links in the chat while Andy is talking, showing where you can see all the sessions we have hosted, and we've done 4 of them already. We've got 2 more today, this week at Bixie, and what's coming up, so you can make sure you catch all of them. Right now, we are hosting Mr. Andy Rittenhouse with Somfy Systems, who will talk to you about how using blinds and shades to manage circadian rhythms will drive wellness in the workplace. And then we will be, in about an hour after this, we're going to be going live with Lou Sao, who has been one of the driving factors in the amazing PoE hotel that is the Sinclair Marriott. He'll be sharing his best practices on networking and Power over Ethernet automation. But now, let me bring on Mr. Andy Rittenhouse, and I will give him his full introduction. So, Andy is currently a specification manager with Somfy Systems, a world-leading supplier of motorization and control solutions. Andy's focus is on commercial business solutions relating to window coverings and natural daylight management. Andy achieved his WELL AP in January 2020. He started his career in the solar shading industry in 1999 in Houston, Texas. Andy served on the NFRC 100A and 200A 2010 window attachment subcommittees. He's been conducting seminars and training nationally for the recognition of dynamic and automated solar shading for over 15 years. And, as I mentioned before, he achieved his WELL AP in January 2020. So with that, Andy, we are super excited about your presentation. Why don't you take it away and show us what you have for us today.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you all for being here today. It's great to be here and to share our thoughts on how we can utilize both natural and electric light to properly synchronize our body's circadian rhythm and create a distraction-free, productive work and home environment. We will also discuss various synergies within well and lead concepts and features between circadian lighting design and other standard lighting influencers. So as we get in today, we want to start talking about how we can see light in a new way through circadian lighting management. And this can be a contentious discussion because as you'll see as we go through this conversation and we start looking at well V2, there's a heavy focus on utilizing natural light and then enhancing that through electric lighting or using natural light and electric light together versus shading or natural light management just being a accessory in Division 12 furnishings. So circadian rhythms, as we know, are kept in sync by various cues, including light, which the body responds to based on a 24-hour internal natural time clock. It's our natural time clock, right? It's what makes the roosters crow in the morning. And so we've evolved to base our circadian rhythms around natural light, dark patterns associated with daytime and nighttime, and being indoors for extended periods of time often does not provide us with the opportunities for the required amount of exposure to daylight, considering the typical indoor electric light levels compared to the amount of natural light the human body expects to receive outdoors. So we're trying to bring that natural element to our indoor built environment. One of the things that I have seen in the market, in conversations and even specifications are conflicting or a misunderstanding of the basic terms such as daylighting, daylight harvesting, daylight autonomy, natural light management, daylight solar shading, and circadian lighting. So just to help us make sure we understand, like daylighting is a great example. Daylighting is the practice of placing windows, skylights, or other openings and reflective surfaces so that the sunlight, direct or indirect, can provide effective internal lighting. Particular attention is given to daylighting while designing a building when the aim is to maximize visual comfort or to reduce energy use. So when we talk about daylighting strategies, there are a lot of different methods or ways we can manage that daylight. We have interior and exterior light shells. We have windows themselves that can be strategically designed so that the upper part of the window provides the daylighting and the lower half is considered the view part of that. And so in that scenario, we want to maximize the light entering through the upper portion of the window while managing the glare on the lower section for maximum view potential. So that's daylighting, right? It's a good example of strategic use of natural light at its core. Daylight harvesting. Now, daylight harvesting a daylight harvesting system is going to use the daylight to offset the amount of electric light needed to properly light a space in order to reduce the energy consumption. So this is accomplished using lighting control systems that are able to dim or switch electric lighting in response to changing daylight availability, which is the key, right? So now we're talking about daylight harvesting at its core is designed, okay, to respond to the changing daylight availability. So that's important. So now we can start to see a trend building that the strategy really should start with the windows and the natural light management, and then we can build our systems and comfort levels from there. So now that we have our natural light through daylighting, which is then supplemented with electric lighting through daylight harvesting systems, now we can add a third part of the equation, which is daylight autonomy. And which is another term that very few really understand what that is or put it into practical play. But daylight autonomy, that's the percentage of time that daylight levels are above a specified target illuminance built within a physical space or building. The calculation is based on annual data, predetermined lighting levels, And the goal of the calculation is to determine how long an individual can work in a space without requiring electric lighting. And so what does that mean? It means how much natural light can we use, or how much will be available, and when is it most available to minimize the use of electric lighting. Just as a general reference, a lot of times we see a 9-to-1 window is a very common time frame that we want to use as much natural light. It's when most of our natural light is available versus early morning or evening. You'll see that in the staircase design within WELL, right? They talk about, natural, being able to light that staircase in such a way using both electric and natural light. But it has to be well lit, right? We have to invite people to walk up and down that staircase instead of using an elevator. And that's actually part of the fitness, or what will be the movement concept in WELL. So you'll see shades and lighting have touch points in many different aspects of a WELL building or LEED. So daylight autonomy. So we talked about that, and then we go into daylight solar shading. Daylight solar shading, that is going to use the technology to control external and or internal shading devices such as shades, curtains, and blinds by means of an intelligent building system. It's going to receive real-time input from various sensors like sun sensors, and combines this input with preset data and thresholds based on the requirements from both facility managers and tenants. Okay, so now that we understand the basic definitions that relate to natural lighting within our built environment, we can use this information to build a circadian lighting strategy that will use both natural and electric light that will benefit both the people working inside our building and the environment in which we live. Because if we can maximize the use of free and healthy energy, sunlight, and minimize electric lighting, we have multiple benefits of energy savings, health, comfort, and wellness within our built environment. So the concept of circadian lighting follows that, of course, of the human circadian rhythm. It's a 24-hour internal time clock, and the brain controls each person's circadian rhythm by receiving the signals from our eyes that report when it's daytime and nighttime. And the brain, in turn, is going to control the amount of melatonin released to correlate with sleepiness with darkness and alertness with lightness. And so our circadian rhythm typically aligns fairly well with the natural day-night cycle. But improper lighting exposure or chronic disruption of our circadian rhythm can lead to loss in productivity, learning, psychology, or psychological and behavioral adversity. So it has a big impact from our offices to healthcare environments. And there's a lot of things that we can go into. A quick example would be like sundowner syndrome that affects people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And that is directly related to improper circadian lighting within our homes and in care centers and in healthcare. So if we're not properly managing or creating that environment where we have a good circadian rhythm and exposing the people in our built environment to the right amounts of light during the day, there's a lot of adverse effects to that. And I'll also say that we want to remember that what happens in our built environment, such as our office, going with the theme of where we're at now, or should be at, what stays in Vegas, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's not so in our built environment. What happens in our offices follows us home. So if we have inappropriate exposure during the day to the lighting, both electric and natural, then we're going to be off balance when we get home in our personal life. So circadian lighting was and is still sometimes addressed as a standalone solution through electric lighting. It's a process in which electric lighting replaces natural light and allows your mind to follow a prescribed day-night cycle. And in the absence of available or insufficient sunlight, electric lighting can provide a similar effect as natural light on the human body, but requires a significant increase in electric lighting needed in the space, therefore directly contradicting the LEED strategy of sustainability through energy savings. So it can be tricky, right? And this is where we talk about utilizing both the light to maximize the efficiency and our well-being in the space. So I think that's a key point. So if sunlight is readily available, we have that free energy, that healthy energy from sunlight literally at our fingertips, or even voice control now in our homes. Then why wouldn't we use as much of nature's organic circadian lighting as possible, right? There is no better circadian lighting system than nature and the sun. So circadian lighting design is a primary feature within the WELL standards. LEED, however, it's important to note, does not specifically address circadian lighting design directly, but as I previously stated, it can support the intent or spirit of LEED through energy saving efforts. And I'll show some examples of that towards the end of the presentation on how the two will work together. So with technologies like power over the Ethernet, in the management software associated with it, we can now best utilize our integrated systems for maximum efficiency. Integrating daylight and an electric light to create lighting strategies that are going to focus on human health, along with traditional requirements for visual acuity and comfort, will lead to healthier and more productive environments. So I wanted to show some examples. Within, and we're going to go through some slides here specifically on the WELL building standard. And I used V2 light concept on this one, some information from the new V2 building standard for WELL, because I think that they've done a really great job on, I think, clarifying or better addressing the importance of the use of natural light versus V1. It was in V1, but I think V2 highlights it a lot more in the importance of the integration process and using both types of systems, both natural and electric light together. Okay, so the WELL concept promotes exposure to light and aims to create lighting environments that are optimal for visual, mental, and biological health. So we go into visual lighting design. So visual abilities of individuals are dependent on the properties of lighting environment and the light entering the eye, right? We talked about the eye, that's where the circadian rhythms, come through the eye and the visual part of that. But visibility and the ability to perform a task require a minimum threshold of illuminance, which may be achieved by incorporating electric light with adequate daylighting strategies. So you see the beginning of this conversation. We're now talking about how we need to use both systems together to get to the spirit of this concept, or the goals of the concepts, or the features. Circadian lighting design. This WELL feature requires projects to provide users with appropriate exposure to light for maintaining circadian health and aligning our circadian rhythm with the day-night cycle. Glare control, and you can see in the picture here on my slide, space planning and lighting design can minimize the amount of glare experienced by individuals in the space. For electric lighting, the light source or the type of luminaires used and the lighting layout can lead to reduced glare. For daylighting, integration of shading for all windows conducting daylighting analysis in the space can help manage solar glare. So you can see individually, they both can do their job, but when we bring them together, that's when we really hit the spirit of what we're trying to do. And if you look at the space here, you can see examples of, we can manage the glare and the natural light through in a large group, facade, or section. Or if we had channeled glare, you could literally, because each motor is addressable, you could literally have one shade come down to deal with the glare in combination with your lighting, which has glare control properties as well, right? So, or strategies. So combined, that's where we are going to truly hit that wellness and features within these discussions. Enhanced daylight access. This WELL 2 feature requires projects to design spaces to integrate daylight into indoor environments so that daylight may be used for visual tasks along with electric lighting. And it also provides individuals with a connection to outdoor spaces through view windows. Really important. Visual balance. Visual balance. Now, this is the development of a lighting layout and operation schedule to complement the lighting design in a space. It's key to increasing the comfort of the users. Oh, no, so now we're talking to comfort. So now we've talked about the light concept. We've talked about the fitness or movement content with staircase design. And though we're still in the light concept, now we're starting to talk about comfort, which is a whole other section within WELL. So evidence suggests that the thoughtful planning of lighting in a space that takes into account the color temperature, daylight, electric light, supports a visually comfortable lighting environment. Consideration of the ages and the users and the task performed and the existing physical features in the space are also integral to creating a productive space. Electric light quality. Humans, we've evolved to depend on the sun as the main and ideal source of light, right? 100 years ago, we were all out on the farm during the day, and now we're inside. And so we're tuned naturally to the color rendering provided by daylight, and we recognize the colors and associate with daylight. So when sufficient daylighting is not available, the use of electric lighting should be increased to help maintain the similar light level relative to our circadian rhythm for continuous seamless transitions and pairing of natural and electric lighting. Innovation. Innovation is a great part of the WELL Building Standard and LEED because it promotes the continuous evolution of these standards by encouraging projects to go well and beyond, as an example, existing WELL feature requirements, or to propose a new intervention that addresses health and well-being in a novel way, such as POE. So through innovation, we can look at strategies like POE and management software to bridge some of these concepts that we've talked about and features that still may stand alone from one feature to another, or better validate through good real-time data the performance of the integrated system so that we can truly have a single ecosystem within our built environment. LEED. So when we get into LEED, and this is we can spend hours talking about any of these slides, but this is the one I like to really kind of focus on, Credit 7, Daylight within LEED V4. The intent of this credit is to connect the building occupants with the outdoors and to reinforce circadian rhythms and reduce the use of electric lighting by introducing daylight into the space. Now, earning this credit requires the inclusion of manual or automatic glare control devices in all regularly occupied spaces. So if you're a building owner at that point, you're like, hey, look, I can save a lot of money. Look, it says right here, I can do manual, right? So great, we can do manual shades and do everything we're talking about. Well, kind of, theoretically, you could, but here's the problem. If you go down to the next part of that credit requirement, it says, in addition to the glare control devices, supporting simulations or measurements must be completed to prove that the design achieves certain daylight objectives. And that's the catch. That's the problem. If you're using manual shades in your building that you've spent all this money on the circadian electric lighting system, what's the point, right? If you're not managing your natural light at the window correctly, that circadian lighting system is not going to be as efficient as it was originally designed to be, nor is it going to be able to provide the benefits that it was originally designed and the intent of these standards for health and wellness and sustainability. So, and where I'm going with that is, think about this. If you have manual shades in your building and you're looking at the back of one of your fabric cards that references NFRC 100 and 200 standards, well, I can tell you, because I was involved in that was done, those numbers that you see on the back of the card talking about solar heat gain and all of that, that was done back in 2010, and we used a single pane glass as the standard window, and the numbers are based on an assumption that the shades will be down, all the way down 100%, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and you've got black outside channels with a 3% fabric. Okay, that's just not going to happen. It's not real, right? And so so you have to keep in mind, the second you raise that shade up even 5% above the windowsill, those numbers you're trying to reference off of old studies are irrelevant. They're not valid. Okay. So trying to do this manually, okay, maybe you can run a solar effective report and the modeling, and you're going to get this report that says the shades need to be in these positions at any given time, at any given day, 365 days a year. Yes, you could theoretically print out an Excel, have somebody create an Excel. I bet somebody could do that part. And you're going to have, I guess, hire some people on each floor to go around throughout the entire day, moving these shades up and down. You have a little checklist, kind of like you do in the restrooms, right? Yeah, it's been cleaned every hour. You literally would have to have somebody going through, moving the shades, doing this checklist all day long. It makes no sense, right? And even worse is you can't validate. So you might be able to kind of show that, hey, we're doing it, but you're not getting any feedback. You're not getting any real-time data, valid data saying, look, this is the effectiveness within your building. This is what this system or this strategy you're using is working, and this is how it is working, and these are your results. And that can be measured in several different ways based on the data, the sensors, occupant surveys. You can do them daily, weekly, monthly. Yes, the sun was just right at this time of day. No, it wasn't. It was too hot, too cold. And so using the technology that's available today is going to truly help us achieve the spirit of these standards. Okay. So scorecards, when we look at scorecards, a lot of, we get asked, where do we start? And I would say if you were truly interested in pursuing LEED or WELL certifications, or maybe you're not going to go through the certification process, but you truly want to do the best you can with the budget you have. And we want to kind of identify some areas that we can design around these standards, right? Let's look at these scorecards and let's identify some areas that maybe we can't do everything. Maybe we can't have the Ferrari, but maybe we can have the Porsche, right? Or maybe we can have a utility vehicle that's going to do what we need to do to benefit everybody. All right, we need a minivan because we've got 7 kids, right? So just this is a great guide to start. And then once you look at the scorecard, you bring together a group of the key stakeholders and you create a charrette of trade professionals that can help you have the right discussion, because you may not realize that if I get shades and low voltage people to talk, we can actually save more money than we realize, right? Rather than just talking to a shade person on their own and a low voltage person on their own, or a consultant on it. If you get everybody together and they come together as a charrette and brainstorm, and they go through the scorecard with you and say, look, okay, we can do this and we can do this. And maybe we can reduce the amount of insulation here because we're going to increase this over here. I'm not an HVAC guy, but it's just an example. So this is important. And when we look at these scorecards, we can get into things like visual lighting design, circadian lighting design, glare control, daylight access, visual balance. The list goes through all the way down to light at night. And even that, we don't always think about how important that can be. But if your building is somewhere where they have code restriction dealing with light pollution at night, man, if Andy, if I'm in your building and I'm doing a lunch and learn, and I've moved the shades up because I want as much light in there as possible, when I leave that room, I forget to hit the button, the eco mode button, sending control back to the building, so the shades are left up because it's me. Fortunately, the building is going to be smarter than me, and it's going to know, hey, no matter what, whether Andy's there or not, and it's going to know based on occupancy sensors, but it's going to know, the system's going to know, look, at night, irregardless of what's going on in that building, at sundown, I got to bring those shades down, right? Because of light pollution. Or even more on the East Coast. And I know this is silly, but it's really important. You can have, we have scenarios on the East Coast where it's the same thing. If your building is emitting a white light at night, right? And those little sea turtles hatch and they think your white light is the moon. So instead of going to the ocean, they crawl up to your building. Man, I promise you, a proper lighting and shades solution is going to be less cost then that fine. Sometimes depending on your building. So anyhow, a lot of neat little things that are actually really important. So the scorecards are key to starting down that path. This is where we start. And of course, you can reach out to us. As you know, as I mentioned, I'm a WELL AP. I can help you through this process and going down the right path and bringing the right people together. Now, when we go into LEED, you can see, so this is a LEED scorecard, and you can see that there are some similar terminologies used, like daylighting, integration, quality views. What's important in commissioning, but what's important to know, especially when we talk about daylighting, integration, quality views, LEED's interest in this is not, it does reference comfort and that, but the bigger interest in LEED, in daylighting, quality views, is the reduction of energy, right? Sustainability. So they look at quality views more about using, your daylighting, your window strategies, right? To allow as much sunlight in to reduce the amount of electric being used. And where WELL is more interested in the health and human comfort, the circadian rhythm process of proper lighting. So you can see how the two kind of play or have synergies, but two very distinct goals. WELL is going to be about health and human comfort within the built environment. LEED is going to be about sustainability. But when we achieve certain goals within WELL on daylighting, integration, quality views, we also have significant impacts on the LEED side, and vice versa. Okay? So we could spend hours talking about these various subjects and criteria in each slide. I could literally talk for 2 hours probably on each slide, but we didn't have a lot of time today. But what I want to leave us with today is, keep in mind, so PoE itself, Power over the Ethernet, it's not specifically addressed in WELL or LEED building standards, but when we use PoE as a holistic digital building solution, we are able to use multiple types of real-time data from multiple subsystems to better monitor, measure, validate, and perform beyond the written scope of WELL and LEED in achieving these standards. I think that is what we need to highlight through this whole discussion and in your thought process as we go forward. In the past, we were challenged. A lot of times we kind of looked through or looked past some of these scenarios of lighting and shades together because we just didn't have the technology, or we didn't really know how to bring it together. But now we do, right? We have live projects that have been put in place. And so we have references, we have some standards we can follow. We have the people with experience that can help us get to where we want to go and truly meet the spirit of what we were trying to do through WELL and LEED. Okay, so information on how to best use the newer technologies to achieve WELL and LEED utilizing natural and electric light, please reach out to me. Also, if you're interested in some of the CE courses we have available, please reach out. We have some on digital buildings of the future and basically utilizing automated shades versus manuals. So please reach out to me. My contact information is below. And then if we have any questions, Tyler, I'm here. I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Well, Andy, I have a question for you. When it comes to lighting and it comes to the motorized blinds and shades, what's going to be the biggest pitfall for installing motorized shades and blinds on a job, at a facility? Where do you find the biggest objections?
Biggest objections to installing shades?
Yes, the motorized shades, like the automated ones.
Motorized shades, right? So I think the biggest objections to motorized shades is the assumed cost, right? Right off the bat, I think, motorized shades are an expensive toy, right? Because that's really the way they look. Everybody looked at it 10 years ago. It's a toy, and it's a neat convenience, right? And that's a big challenge in trying to validate the cost of shading, because I get asked all the time, well, I saw something that says that if I do shading in my building, I'm going to save 20% off my electric bill. which you cannot do that. You can't say that. Anybody that does just is misinformed or just not having a genuine conversation. Without these new technologies, you can't do that. So it's hard to validate, right? If you're just doing even a manual shade or just a basic local control motorized shade, it's hard to validate that. And that's one of our biggest challenges. And that's why we're trying to emphasize the importance of looking at shades in a new light, rather than just a furnishing in Division 12 to an essential part of your building system.
Awesome. Well, Andy, we have used up all of our time. The one we committed to everybody 30 minutes, we're at 35 minutes. I really feel like it was a great presentation. And why don't we wrap it up? And everybody, we're going to send Andy over to the Bixie Live, where you could talk to him at our booth. And let's go ahead and wrap up this live stream. So, Andy, thank you so much. Truly enlightening. Shoot some text to Andy over the chat line. Tell him how much you appreciate it. Truly enlightening, even with all the POE bad puns. But it's really great content, though, and thank you so much for sharing with us your valuable experience. If you'd like to talk to Andy directly, you can find him right after this live stream at our Bixie booth, where you can discuss any projects you'd like his help with, or any products or any topics. If you're not registered or don't have your pass, you can follow the link I've thrown into the chat line to get into Bixie for free. You can visit the exhibit hall, see Andy. That's the right price if you ask me. So don't forget to join us in about 30 minutes when Louis Sau is going to enlighten us some more on his best practices for networking and power in a PoE-based lighting and automation system. Thank you very much for joining us today. We will see y'all in just a few minutes. Have a great day.
Thank you.